We are live now. All right. Thank you to we have one person watching so far. There will be more.
Hi.
But yeah, there we go. They're starting to come in now. I am Jordan. I am the Jordan Zachary, the publisher, writer, guy behind Progress Report newsletter, and I am pleased to be joined by Caitlin Dre, who is the nominee for the special election for Democratic nominee for State Senate District One special election next week, and it is a big one. It could break the Republican uh, supermajority, so that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's been a really we were talking before we started. This is the only time you'll ever catch me sprinting, and it's been an incredible sprint up to this point. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so tell me a little about so Iowa has all three. Republicans have all three branches of the government.
Yes.
This could be the first little crack away at that.
Yeah, I unlovingly refer to the situation in Iowa right now as the double Republican trifecta, so both federal and state.
Yeah.
We've been under a Republican trifecta for the better part of the last 10 years at the state level. And we were able to flip a really heavily Republican seat in January. Mike Zimmer in Senate District 35 kind of laid the groundwork for the enthusiasm for this race. And so this one is big because, like you said, it will flip the last kind of seat that we need to get out of the super minority, which means we can negotiate on things like controversial cabinet nominees, legislation, and ultimately, excuse me, obviously that benefits our constituents and the
Yeah.
people that we're supposed to be representing. And so that feeling like cautiously optimistic at this point. It's a smaller hill for me to climb than it was for Senator Zimmer, and we've seen overperformance in the three previous special
Right.
elections that we've had so far this year in Iowa. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been interesting, like a lot of places, oftentimes, especially when after a president's sworn in, like the other party does well in a special election. So that's not unusual, but Iowa's been really big.
Hmm.
And I wonder how much that is obviously the energy of people who are voting in special elections, responding to Trump, but also, um, it's not been the best government there for a good while. And live in New York, and our government could be much better also. So not to say that
Yeah,
we
that's
got a major.
it's an understatement, I think, from the perspective of someone who has chosen to live here and raise her family here. My husband and I are both proud to live where we do. We're both technically transplants to the area, but we've lived here for the better part of 20 years. Half of our life basically has been spent in Sioux City, and we are first in the nation for new cancers. We are about to outpace Kentucky for the fastest rising rate of cancer overall. We are 24th in the nation for education. We're 52nd in the nation for OBGYN providers per capita. So a lot of stuff is going wrong. And
I think you're
this
first for child
election,
labor though, right?
oh, that's cute. That's Love that. That's a new one I'll get to add to my repertoire, Jordan. Thank you for pointing that out. Is that an official statistic,
No,
or are you
I've
being
done
okay? I was like, or
a
are
lot of
you
coverage
being
of well, I've done a lot of I cover labor a lot, and a couple years ago they passed those child labor laws that
Yes,
have
yeah.
led to a lot, increase.
Well, and that's an excellent point, because one of the kind of band-aid solutions that our current governor has proposed to childcare shortages is allowing 16-year-olds to take care of infants. And like I was 33 when my human child was born, and I wasn't ready to take care of an infant. Like they hand you an infant, you're like, I don't know, you figure it out.
Yeah,
And the idea of letting a 16-year-old, however responsible they may be in charge of, a ratio of infants is pretty scary as a first
yeah,
time, or any level of parenting, right? That's scary to hand your child over. And so there have been a lot of, kind of proposed what I like to call band-aid solutions, because that is not an actual solution to the problem of a shortage of childcare, right? Like an
Yeah.
actual solution would be subsidizing wages for childcare workers, providing some measure of support for parents to pay for daycare so that they can continue working. Like those are actual solutions. But what we have is like, I don't know, maybe the teenagers can figure it out. And like I said, all respect to teenagers because they're, growing up in unprecedented times just like
Doesn't
the rest
respect
of
them
us.
that
But
much. But they
I
can
don't
have
know.
that.
They're gonna grow up to be voters eventually, so I don't
Yeah,
wanna piss
right.
them off too bad.
True.
Right?
So you're focusing a lot, and I like as viewers may know, I've got a nearly 3-year-old, so the childcare stuff is really high on my agenda. It's one of those things that you don't really think about until you have to, and then you're like, oh my god, it's so expensive. But you have a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, a lot of the stuff, family affordability, so there's a reason for that. Beyond
Mhm.
thinking it's important, like you started an organization, right? Moms for Iowa. Tell me
Yeah.
more about that. So that's how you kind of that's your entrance into politics, I imagine.
Yeah, so I've always had a lot of opinions. The people that I went to high school with are not surprised that I grew up to, lecture people on the internet about the rules. Uh, but about 2 years ago, I started a group, all online, right? And really is an Instagram account and corresponding Facebook page called Moms for Iowa. And really it was born out of the idea that we can participate in the political process without it feeling overwhelming or scary or daunting. And so, what does it look like to save the phone numbers of your representatives? What does it look like to call them? What does it look like to when somebody answers the phone? What do you say? How do you get other people to activate around issues that you care about? And so, from that, I realized as well that the best way to affect policy and try and get good representation elected was to be involved in my county party. And so got really involved with them. We have a really active group of Democrats of all ages in my area, which I'm really grateful for because I know that's not necessarily the case in other parts of Iowa and really other parts of the state or the country, I guess. And so, yeah, from there, it just kind of blossomed into this like the timing was right for my family. And, unfortunately, the previous senator passed away from a really ugly disease. Pancreatic cancer is really nasty. And, I obviously extend my condolences to him and his family. But we did not agree on policy in any stretch of the imagination, from what I've gathered just based on interacting with him as, as a constituent, but then also, as I have come to learn more about his politics, after entering the race. And, yeah, that's, I don't know, a long answer to how I got here, but
No, but it's cool, like you can start small doing this, you start an organization on Instagram and all of a sudden you're, through a
mhm.
bunch of years of hard work, now this position to run and this hopefully a super majority and, make a difference. And, you mentioned like your, the late senator who no longer has a seat, like, very different politics, but so is your opponent, right? He's a little bit, out there as well. He's like,
Uh,
I'll let you describe him because I would probably get you in trouble, like, if I would describe him.
I have not spent a lot of time thinking about him, quite frankly. He has authorized the Iowa Republican Party to run a smear campaign based on, half truths and misconstructions of what I have said on Moms for Iowa. All of those posts are still available for people to go read and reference and see where I stand and what I believe. The same cannot be said for him.
Mm,
He's espoused some pretty awful views, in my opinion. Everything from abortion has been likened to the Holocaust. Uh,
right.
rape and incest victims should be forced to carry their pregnancies to term, no matter how old they are. Um, 9/11 was an inside job. Just if there is a conspiracy theory, I think he's probably, said maybe it's true. And,
9/11
a
was
healthy
magnificent. Something to run on,
Uh,
man.
uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Well, and that's the thing is he's not running on those beliefs. He scrubbed all of his social media channels.
Mhm.
So you can't see, I mean, Iowa Starting Line is a local publication here. They have a, podcast and a newsletter and things, and their Instagram is really active. They did a pretty deep dive on his stuff that was available up until, a day or two after he was nominated.
Mhm.
And yeah, like a healthy level of skepticism is okay, but at the point when you are, disbelieving vaccine science, I have some reservations to say the least.
I found that one of the articles you mentioned from the good people at Iowa Starting Line, some very some great stuff on a podcast he hosts. He asks, "Well, who was worse, the Nazi Germans who killed 10 million Jews and many other people, or the left's policies to target an entire generation
Mhm.
of babies to death?" I
Yeah.
don't know if he meant that rhetorically or if he was he was actually asking the question, but probably very different
And
answers.
we'll never know, because
Yeah,
he also won't. He has not responded to our local media aside from the two kind of ABC, NBC affiliates. He barely did a sit down with our public radio station, the statewide IPR station. He won't do a public forum or a town hall or a debate of any kind.
right. Legal
And
Women voters who
kind
go
of
off.
flat out lied. Yeah, yeah, which is like nonpartisan,
Right.
a- and not to denigrate the League of Women Voters, but it's like a bunch of like sweet grandmothers, like
Do you think it's
sweet
the
retired
women voter
grandmother.
part that he didn't like? The women voting
Oh
part?
my God. If he said repeal the 19th, I don't know that I would be surprised. So,
Yeah.
maybe I do. Again, we will never know.
So he was chosen by the local Republican Party. Like, um, I know you're in like a redder area, but Sioux City is like itself could be blue. Like, tell me a little bit about the district because obviously, I know JD Schulten. It's from that area.
Yeah.
Big fan of his, and so he won in the red district, but it doesn't always been red, right? Like, there's a kind of a blue streak there, a populist streak there, anyways.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that populism is on its way back. I think, JD is a friend and has been an exceptional support and mentor through this process. And his way of speaking to the working class is something that I respect deeply and something that resonates with me as well. And when we talk about, wage suppression, when we talk about the affordability crisis in terms of housing and healthcare and childcare, all of those things resonate with folks across the political spectrum, right? They don't want their life to be more expensive than it needs to be. And I think where my communications background and meeting people online can be really beneficial is sorry, I'm like get a campaign text messages. So I'm like,
It's
the
all
thought
good.
has just evaporated from my brain. But all of that is related to everyone's life, like I said, regardless of stripes. And so there is more here that unites us, I think, at the risk of sounding, cliche and glib and
Very
Pollyanna-ish.
Obama-esque.
But yeah, right? That's high praise. Let's maybe
Well, his
disagree
ideal,
with me, I guess. Yeah.
his
Oh,
bipartisan ideal.
eternally optimistic here. And
Yeah.
like that's to aspire to a level of optimism like that in our state when things right now are not so hot. Again, at the risk of sounding Pollyanna-ish, like I think we can do better, and I think folks are really craving that right now.
Mhm.
Which is part of the reason that I'm, again, feeling cautiously optimistic that people across the country have been supportive in, financially and in making calls. And I think people in Iowa are really frustrated and are not ready yet to give up. So why not try something different?
I mean, it's interesting. Like, there's been a lot of good like Dan Osborne, like some other Democrats running,
Mhm.
or independents
Mhm.
running, and that sort of mold, right? That populist mold, and when they
Yeah.
aren't burdened by the Democratic D next to their name, they do a lot better. And so,
Mhm.
I'm curious for you, you're running as a Democrat, which makes sense, but like, is it that a huge handicap, and how do you deal with that?
I mean, I think when you talk about like the letter behind someone's name, like
Yeah,
yes, it might be. But we know that when democratic policies are on the ballot, when you talk about access to abortion, when you talk about raising wages, when you talk about, some of those ballot measure things that we don't actually have access to really in Iowa, we can't do
right,
ballot measures the same way that they did in Kansas or Missouri. Democratic policy is really, really popular.
true,
And so if I have to be the first or, one of the first kind of messengers in this like new media landscape for democratic policies in Iowa, then so be it.
yeah,
And um like I said, I think being a member of this community and being, relatively well known for as young as I am in Sioux City, that's hopefully people know like I've met her at a networking event, or I was the president of our young professionals organization for a year. This was back when my hair was still pink. Can you imagine the horror?
I think I saw a
um
flyer, and you were yeah,
yes, yes,
I found
was
that.
it where I was being beamed up or down from the
Yes, yeah,
station?
yeah,
Yeah,
Kooky Caitlin,
yeah.
I think. That's pretty cool.
Isn't it just like,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
kinda cool. I would get that, like,
Thank
if
you.
me, I get that made into a poster.
Get it framed.
Yeah,
The problem that I have with it, Jordan, is that the production value
it's
is
not good.
incredibly low.
Looks like a zine.
There's just like that is offensive to zines. I have some friends that make zines,
I
and
think
they
zines are
do a
great.
great job.
I
Yeah.
love zines. I'll say that. Yeah, I love
But
zines.
they paid money for that.
Yeah, it was
Like, they
not
paid
good.
a
We'll
lot of money.
we'll put it in the newsletter with your permission, just so people see how
Please.
terrible it is.
Do you want the link to his ads as well? I can
Yeah,
get you
that'd be great.
the
Yeah,
video ads? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that'd
yeah.
be fun. That's gotta be in a weird way, like, I guess, I'm someone who works on the internet, I'm a journalist, but, like, I aspire to, like, having that much sort of, like, anger at me. Not for, like, righteous, like, anger that, like, isn't necessarily deserved because I did something wrong, but, like, is it flattering in a way, like, kinda fun, or is it just a pain?
It was so funny to me
Yeah,
because I saw the TV ad first, and it takes the backstory is that last cycle Iowa had a ballot measure that said, it was a constitutional amendment, like we're trying to change, I think it did pass. um Constitutional amendment to say that to move from any US citizen can vote in our elections to only US citizens can vote in the election, which is already the law, right?
right,
So it was this like colossal waste of time on the part of the current Republican administration. And I said, why are we have so many other problems to solve. Why are we wasting our time on this?
yeah,
So in the Moms for Iowa voter guide, I said, I'm voting no. And they snipped that tiny thing to say that I think that undocumented and non-citizens should be able to vote in our elections, which is not at all what I said.
right,
And so, and thankfully, after, 10 years of therapy and a good prescription for Lexapro generic, um, I'm very sturdy in myself.
yeah,
So I saw that and I was like, this is what we're going with? Like,
right,
this is it? The pink hair. The second thing that I will say about the pink hair, they took that photo from my mother in law's Facebook page. We were on vacation in Jamaica. I mean, it was like 8 years ago because I
yeah.
colored my hair back to my natural color the year I turned 30, and I turned 38 in October.
Oh,
So,
that was, like, a big
it,
moment for you, I guess. Really, like, I'm an
yeah,
adult
yeah,
now.
yeah. I don't know. The maintenance, really, the upkeep was
Yeah.
truly awful. Because this is my natural, and you have to go blonde and then do the pink
Oh,
on
okay.
top, otherwise it doesn't
Yeah.
show up. So it was like so tiring, hours, 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 right? But I was like, one, I'm tan. that's 8 years ago weight-wise, and my hair looks incredible. I was like, "I am very cute in this photo. Thank you."
Right.
And this is what you're running with. So,
That
like, yeah, it just, the whole thing was laughable to me that that's the and trying to run, like, that level of national playbook, right? The just,
mhm,
like, throw out whatever nonsense we can find to
right.
see what sticks. Um, I don't think voters are gonna buy it, but
Well well,
we'll see
first of
on
all,
Tuesday.
this gives me a good reason to tell my mother-in-law to not post photos, when we go on vacation. So, that's, not that I'm running for
Well,
office, but you never know, right?
mhm, mhm.
Um,
You really don't. You go from
um
0 to 60 quite
Yeah.
quickly.
Because that sort of thing, obviously, like, Democrats will talk a lot about how, oh, there's all these distractions, like people are voting against their interest. And, there that can be patronizing also. And I'm curious, like,
Yes.
how effective do you find that, that stuff that does get people, maybe because you're on a smaller scale and it's not inundated with the national media, they're not like constantly, hearing that on Fox News constantly. But how much do you find that
Yeah.
stuff like is distracting to people and does kind of take people away from the actual message?
That's interesting. I don't know how much time I've spent thinking about that because my focus just has been knocking on doors, calling voters, and then producing social media content because as you know, right, that's where folks are getting their news now. We're in
Right.
such a fractured media environment that if I can meet potential constituents online and they can see my face and hear my voice and know that I probably wasn't born on Mars. I mean that like that's got to count for something. And
Right.
so the thing that I find so precious is that I've had so many people when they open their door, they're like, "I can't I'm so sorry they're saying all of those things about you." And I'm like, "Sandy, it doesn't rate." Like,
Yeah.
I don't it's not like there's so
It's
many other things. Yeah. Yeah.
so when you go talk to people about stuff,
Mm.
and once you guys get past like the "Oh, I'm actually not an alien," or,
Mhm.
I don't want, to violate the Constitution when it comes to who votes." Um, what are the things that you find people talking most about to you and, like, stuff that resonates most with them?
Yeah, it's back to that affordability piece. Seniors are worried about being able to access healthcare in their home area. They're terrified of what happens when the Medicaid and Medicare cuts come because whether you utilize Medicaid or not in our area, rural and semi-rural hospitals rely on a
Yeah.
competitive Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement rate to stay afloat. And so when those dollars go away, that affects everybody's healthcare.
Right.
And so trying to message on that has been really impactful or just, break it down in a way that is not patronizing, right? Because the coastal elite thing is that, that's a moniker for a reason.
Yeah, I
And
mean, just people
so,
like me hosting a a live stream from New York City.
don't you know? Yeah. And that's the thing that's the other part that's so valuable about running in a, hyper local, hyper fast race is that when I show up at someone's door, I've had more than one person say, "This is the first time a candidate has ever come to my door.
Oh, wow.
This is the first time I've ever had a conversation with." I vote regularly, but it's just never been this personal. And so, humanizing the politicking has really been humbling for me, but I
Yeah.
also think is what we have to get back to, especially because Iowans are used to, seeing and shaking hands with
Right.
their politicians, right? We have that rich tradition of being able to interact with people at all levels. And so,
Yeah, I mean, Democrats are kind of famous for throwing a lot of money on TV, all right, and kind of throwing money like consultants. And it's
mhm,
different when you are running in a state legislative race. It's not like you're going
mhm,
to, be uh, getting millions of dollars to pour onto like TV consultants. But like you talk about going
mhm.
door to door, and so what has been like the strategy for you? 'Cause it's been like you haven't had a ton of time to stand up like a campaign. You were nominated a few months ago.
Yeah, so it's 40 I think it was 47 days from the day of nomination to election day.
Oh,
Um, so it's been yes, is that 6 weeks? I can't. I cannot do
27.
math or
Yeah.
math or geography.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Not an engineer. Let's say
Mhm,
yes.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Um, what was the question?
So,
This is
so
the
what
other
kind of
part.
so what in terms of like campaigning, right? Like how do you go
Yeah.
about it when you have to stand up something so quickly? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because I spoke
Uh,
with yeah.
that's actually one of the other criticisms that they have lodged against me. There's an entire website, so it's not just the postcards and the TV commercial. They built a whole website about
That's
me and how
amazing.
terrible I am, right?
Ooh,
What a
that's cool.
feather in my cap. Dreforillegals.com.
Wow.
Yep.
That sounds really cool though.
Um, yeah,
Like you're a
illegals, what though? Yeah,
no,
right?
the
Yeah.
legals, yeah, like that knowing what they mean is not cool, but like it sounds like a cool thing to be. Like
Oh,
just
yeah.
like a rule breaker. Yeah, for illegal
Just like,
stuff.
yeah, or like a human who cares about other
Right.
humans. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that
Which is
wild?
for
What a
illegals. Yeah.
concept. Again, I'm so sorry.
So
How
as
do
you're
I
building up
stand
this
it up?
campaign, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been a long 47 days.
It really had. It's not even been 47 days. It's not 47 days
All
until
right, it's
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah.
So is that 45 day? Anyway, so that's one of the criticisms that they lodged, right? Is that I filed paperwork right after the former senator passed away. I had already filed campaign paperwork
Hmm.
for a House race, right? As JD had announced that he was running for Senate.
Right.
JD Schulten had announced he was running for Senate, and he had confided in me, and I said, I anyway. So I'd
Sure.
already filed
You're gonna
formation
be his
paperwork.
successor.
And I was very nervous about like breaking the rules if I started fundraising or if I had done any sort of like messaging because
Hmm.
this is not an approachable process for anyone,
No.
right? And so as a first time candidate, I'm like, well, I better get my ducks in a row. And so, updated the ethics filing and had some of that stuff kind of sorted out, like I said, because I was preparing. So
Hmm.
um and my background is in marketing. So that those pieces came very easily. It was like
Okay.
I can build a website in a couple of days. Whether it functions exactly as I would prefer it to, that's fine, but I have marketing technology experience. And so those pieces came
Hmm.
pretty easily. I also have a really fantastic crew of, designers and volunteers that I could count on to say, like, hey, can you make this? And can you help me get these ordered and sourced and whatever? But the other piece is like I knocked almost 1,000 doors just myself as a volunteer last cycle.
Oh wow.
And so the mechanics of campaigning did not come new. I knew what was going to be required. And that part of it, you dive in and just one foot in front of the other. So, but my husband, I think a lot of women my age and maybe younger or older, I guess I don't know, they want an Instagram husband, right? Who's like gonna know all their angles and like you take all the good photos and videos so that they can post them online. What you actually want is a campaign husband
Hmm.
because he has been incredible and has been beating this drum of like when we're done, no matter the outcome, we're going to start fundraising for the crop of candidates that will come behind you
Okay.
because without a little bit of a coffer, it's
Yeah.
really tough. Yard signs are expensive, lit is expensive when you're trying to do that at scale,
Yeah.
right? That stuff is pricey. And how do we put together a playbook to start with city council races, school board races,
Cool.
state house races? Yeah. And because I have had support from our Senate caucus and the state party,
Hmm.
that doesn't usually come this way, right?
Right.
We're in a traditionally redder area, and so trying to do this as a first time candidate without that level of support would have been really, really scary. And we had a state house candidate last cycle who did just that. She said, "I'm going to figure out how to run," and she knocked on more doors than Jessica Lopez Walker will outwork anyone. And she was not successful in the election, but to watch her work and care so deeply was incredibly gratifying. And she picked up 4 packets for us last week. She's like, I'll take these, I'll get them done over the course of the week. And she's like going back to school. She has like I think 4 kids in her house. Like, she's exceptionally busy, but she cares so much about this area, and she knows the mechanics now of campaigning. And so she's like, I know that this is what it takes to get it done. So I'm gonna, help row the boat in the direction that it needs to go.
Well, it's
Um,
it, it ima- I imagine that like because it's been a pretty red area for a while, and the state Democratic Party has lost a lot. You know, I imagine you have to rebuild an infrastructure to some degree, right? There's been I would imagine just sort of like just knowing JD a little bit, just like having to restart everything from the ground up, and that's probably what makes it take so long to ever like have a competitive election.
yeah, I mean, so we've been up against a couple of things in the area, right? Is that former Steve King country? I don't know if you
Yeah,
like JD. Yeah, okay. That's all we need to say about that. Uh,
an actual neo-Nazi. He was really outspoken about it.
he yep, had a Confederate flag on his desk. And I was never a part of the Confederacy.
No,
So I'm not sure what that was about.
I know what it was
Uh
about.
yeah, well, yes, that's true. The quiet part was quite loud. But we have been left out, I think, of, we're 3 hours from the Capitol, so it's not a convenient trip to make when we're talking about volunteers, and we're, probably 4 hours from the next largest, like, Democrat stronghold, and the lack of presidential money flowing into the state when the caucuses went away this last cycle, that was really damaging just across the board, because that money stopped flowing, which meant that top down, across the state, we had to figure out a new playbook. And so fortunately, like I said, my county party was kind of used to just organizing on their own and
Mhm.
figuring it out. So I have, a couple of seasoned Obama era organizers. I've got a really energetic party chair who is out every weekend. We have a great crop of volunteers that are just used to picking up a turf or two every weekend, spending a couple hours talking to voters, and then going about their business. And
Yeah.
so that part has been, really fortunate.
Is there, you jumped into it, and obviously you said you had already filed to run in the House election for J.D. Schulten's race, but like, what was the thing that got you decided that you wanted to jump in? I know you worked on some campaigns, you did months for Iowa. Was there a
Yeah.
thing that,
Um, yes. And it goes back to kind of my early days of advocacy
mm,
when I was reaching out to the late senator and saying, "Hey, I think that, I'm expressing my wishes as a constituent. I don't think what you're saying on this is accurate. Here's all of the research that backs up what I'm saying." And the responses that I got were disheartening at best and disgusting at worst, right?
oh well,
This particular issue was about whether or not to arm teachers and school staff. Um, and we
that one
know
always
from
gets
Yep,
me.
yep.
I
And
pissed off too many teachers to feel comfortable with them having guns growing up.
and and like the so like that's the sarcastic, like, lighthearted answer. But when you drill down and you think about a teacher who has spent her career learning to love and educate and support students, and one of those hurt students comes into her classroom with a gun, and now she has to be the one to decide that she's going to shoot that student. Absolutely not. Law
Yeah,
enforcement officers are only 50% accurate in the best of circumstances when they're in a high pressure situation, and they have years of training.
right.
And I said all of this to my former senator, and the response that I got was just completely dismissive and rude, and also ignored factual evidence, right?
Mhm.
And that was the first time that I said, "Oh, I'm going to take your seat."
Oh,
And
wow.
so this like goes back a couple of years. But that was before, I really understood the gravity of his health
Mhm.
situation. I was maybe considering like a run in 2026. We would see. Um, so it was always kind of there at the risk
Yeah,
of sounding, over ambitious, which
that's
how could
okay.
you?
Yeah.
That's a deep cut from
Oh, they called you
a
over
couple
ambitious.
hours. Yes, grotesquely ambitious, I think was the jab that was lobbed a few hours
First,
after my nomination was finalized.
yeah, somebody who's you're gonna be running an election against someone, so they're ambitious too. But so I want to know like the next bunch of days. What does it look like for you? You got like 4 or 5 days left. What is that? What
Friday,
does that
Saturday,
involve?
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days.
Yep.
Today is Thursday and I have to use my fingers. It looks like ballot chasing, making sure that every Democrat who's requested an absentee ballot either gets it turns in or promises that they're gonna take the blank ballot back and vote it on election day. It looks like 50 volunteers being bussed in from Des Moines, and meeting them and knocking on doors with them on Saturday, which is incredibly exciting, especially
Yeah.
for a part of the state that has felt historically forgotten in terms of Democratic volunteers. It looks like three of the four Senate campaign, like US Senate candidates, are coming to do canvas events with
Oh wow.
us. Yeah, I mean the attention and the support has been truly
There's been a lot of
incredible.
early voting too, right?
Yeah, yep. So I think as of this afternoon, we had like 2,000 votes in already,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, I should know this, but again, the math. I think we're only out registered by about 800
Okay.
last I checked. And Trump's not at the top of this ticket, so we'll
Right.
see what turnout looks like for the Republicans, but it's less of a slog, I think, in terms of electorate numbers. I
Yeah.
did ask Tyler, the Senate Majority Fund executive director, if we could do like a Steve Kornacki moment where we have all of the precincts. I talk with my hands a lot.
Like
We
a
have all the
whiteboard.
precincts printed on a map, and then we get to color them in as they come in. And he's like, "Oh, I can do that." He was thinking like a little like 8.5 by 11, and I was like, "Oh no, I want like a poster."
Yeah, you've got
It's
to
like,
go big. It's your night.
yeah, I know. He's like, "I'll see what I can do." I'm like, "Get it done, Tyler. This is my one demand." I've been
You're
being
already
very
already
easy to
working
work
with
with.
power.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it looks like just like the final push. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So
It's one of those things where like if you win, it becomes a big national story. So no pressure.
yeah, totally fine. I have very, very much like Elle Woods energy about stuff. Like,
Okay.
I was a delegate to the Democratic National Convention last year as
Mhm.
well, which was electric. And like the first day, I was sitting in the lobby of our hotel, and Gabby Giffords and Senator Kelly were also because like the way it works. This is really weedy, but you stay with like your state, right? So
Yeah.
Iowa, Arizona, I think Kansas. I can't remember what the other states were, but Arizona's delegation was also in our hotel, so they were
Okay.
having like a welcome party with Gabby. I hugged her, so we're on a first name
Sure, of course.
basis. Gabby and Mark, my old friends, and I was sitting and I was like, I think that's them. I was like, I'm gonna go say hi. And I like got up and just like walked into the party and was like, hi, can I take a picture with you?
That's
And
funny.
then after the fact, I was like, that was very bold of you. Like, so there's always this like immediate throwing myself into something and then be like,
Right.
huh, that maybe should have been a moment where we paused for a second
It's
to see
better
if we
to
were going to get
reflect that on
accosted.
that than be
Yeah, exactly.
fearful in the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, bring it on. I mean, and this is also like this is national attention already, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
you're in New York City.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, thank you for paying attention to Iowa.
Absolutely. Well,
It's
yes. How do people find it? What's your website? How do people give a last
yeah,
minute donation?
yeah. dreyforiowa.com, DREYFOR Iowa.com. Otherwise you can find me on Act Blue as well. And yeah, the last push is going to be exciting and important. So any, that's the other thing is like at this point, there's unless you're gonna fly into Sioux City and knock some doors, that's the biggest way to support is just help
Yeah,
us get over that last media bump. So
awesome. Well, we will be rooting
yeah.
for you, and hopefully,
Ugh,
we've got some good news to report.
yeah, that would be incredible. And I thank you so much for having me. I will come back anytime. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, when you're in legislature, hopefully at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I will
All right.
make the time.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.